We're here at a Cleveland house that is under permit for rehab. This is an old home, about 1880s style, and there's so many old homes in Cleveland, new homes being built, but there is a issue of fire safety that is of concern to so many Clevelanders. In fact, last week I had in court a defendant who was charged by the City of Cleveland Fire Department with not having a smoke detector. There was a fire and a gentleman died in the fire. So fire safety should be on the minds of everyone. And who do you think of with fire safety? Of course, the fire department, but also the state fire marshal. So we have Mitzi Hudak here, who is with the Office of the State Fire Marshal.
Right.
Now, what do you do there, and what does the state fire marshal do, Mitzi?
All right, well, actually we have several different bureaus. I happen to be in the Fire Prevention Bureau, and we do public education, go out to schools, businesses, hospitals, nursing homes, any civic group or church group, and just talk to people about fire safety. We also do work with juvenile fire setters from the education standpoint. We need to let them know not how to build a better fire, but usually they're getting counseling as well. We do not handle any of that, but we educate as far as what to do if there is a fire and show them the consequences that there are, both physical, emotional, legal.
What we're going to do is go inside of this house and look at some of the systems and some of the places where fires occur, and also what someone needs to do and what they need to know if a fire occurs, how to get out of the house, how to safely get out of the house, and of course, how to prevent fire. So let's go inside and take a look. Candles, electricity, cause of fire. Kitchen, the way people use their stove can cause fire. What are some of the other things that people need to keep an eye out for?
You still really want to focus on smoking safety. Smoking is a huge problem. Make sure that when you're smoking that you have sturdy ashtrays that won't tip over easily. Make sure that if, say, you have people over, before you go to bed, check your couch cushions. Check your chair cushions, because things can smolder for a while and then flaming combustion and things are really
Even
out.
in this day and age, there are fires that are caused by smoking in the home.
Even though the standards have gotten better as far as upholstery. I was reading an article on like cotton batting as opposed to some of the polyfill and things like that. You still have a serious problem with that smoldering situation. Now there are a lot of people that are trying to say, well, let's work on getting that cigarette that it is not as easy to ignite things. And I mean, there was a huge article on that in Fire Engineering, NFPA Journal. And basic bottom line is you still have to be careful. Even when things have a fire retardant on them, with time that retardant can be minimized. But the biggest thing I have to tell people, please check your couch cushions and chair cushions before you go to bed.
Smoking in bed, smoking in an easy chair. I
Oh.
get so many.
We don't even, they used to tell you don't smoke in bed. Now we tell people don't smoke where you're comfortable.
Right.
Because there's so many fires that start in the family room, living room area. Like you mentioned, the comfy chair. Maybe they'll have a alcoholic beverage or something, doze off. And so now we actually tell people, it's best to smoke where you're not comfortable, standing up somewhere. It's just safer. Same situation, people have a false sense of security when they're smoking outside. For some reason, they think they can always just discard your cigarette butt wherever. And there have been numerous mulch fires. There are obviously grass fires. It's a real good idea in your home outside to keep leaves to a minimum, keep a lot of that away from your home because those are problems. Even parking over, fires have started with people parking their cars over piles of leaves.
They set on fire.
Yeah.
Well, even smoking around the gas pumps, I am surprised and shocked by the number of people who smoke around gas pumps while they're pumping gas.
Right. Well, we had a situation of an individual who was smoking outside, and as she had done many times before, she discarded her cigarette butt in the mulch, went inside with her two small children, They went inside, the mulch caught on fire, the vinyl siding caught on fire, and really, vinyl siding burns. Traveled up, got into the attic, into the void spaces, what they call interstitial spaces. They had flashover in that house. Those people were so lucky to get out alive. Thankfully, they had their working smoke detectors.
And it all started with smoking outside and the cigarette butt went into
Yes.
the mulch.
Absolutely.
So one thing does lead
Yeah.
to the next.
Mulch catching
unfortunately.
fire, bushes, vinyl siding. When you're emptying your ashtrays, you should always empty them in a non-combustible container. And, you know, it's a good idea actually to pour water in. And even if the ashes have been sitting here for like 2 weeks, okay, get the mindset that you should always empty them in a non-combustible container. I tell people put water in and stir it around. Can I tell you a little funny story?
I've seen many people that are in that easy chair putting their cigarettes out in their beer can.
Oh yeah, well, you know, if there's a little liquid in there, I guess go for it. But then I wouldn't dump it into the wastebasket afterwards.
And what story were you going to tell us?
Well, I was doing a assisted living program for senior citizens, and this one dear little lady said, well, not only do I put it in a non-combustible container, I always put water in and stir it around. I found out later on she'd been married to a firefighter for 50 years, so I said, do you want to go on programs with me? She was really cute.
What's this?
Okay.
What's this? And what's this?
All right. This was a clock radio. Okay. This was a phone base and a camera. Just shows you the level of destruction there is. When I show this videotape, I tell people, you know, does this look like it was in a fire? And they say, yeah. No, this was several rooms away from the fire.
This is away from the flame of the fire.
Absolutely,
Uh-huh.
absolutely. People don't realize how hot smoke can get. When you have a fire start in a room, okay, and bear in mind an ordinary combustibles fire doubles in size every 6 to 30 seconds, depending on what's burning. So that's going fast anyway. But the combustibles that are around that flame start to decompose, and they actually give off combustible gases, okay? So things are going fast. You're getting this enriched environment with these combustible gases, and then you know, all of a sudden you can have flashover in a room, and flashover in the room is as you keep getting more and more combustible gases, all of a sudden that room is an inferno. And that can happen in less than 2 minutes, But people also need to know that as the smoke is generating throughout that building, because the smoke will go up and travel out, and it goes up as much as it can, travels out as much as it can, and starts banking down. But that smoke is very, very toxic. It's very, very hot. It can kill you 3 different ways. I tell people, you know, smoke is made up of carbon monoxide, products of incomplete combustion, and other toxic gases. Of course, we know the carbon monoxide kills you. You can be very seriously endangered in a room remote from the fire, because as the building is filling up with that smoke, with that carbon monoxide, as the normal oxygen level drops from like its normal 21% down to like 19%, you start getting very, very confused. If you're sleeping, you go into a deeper sleep. But if you're awake, you get very, very confused and dizzy. As it drops a little bit more, you actually lose muscular coordination. So it has happened that people have had a clear way out, and they've been too confused to be able to get out, or had lost that muscular coordination, because that carbon monoxide, which is the main proponent in the smoke, attaches to the hemoglobin in your blood and doesn't let the oxygen to your brain. And so that's why you're confused, and this happens. That's why we tell people, you know, the smoke kills you 3 ways. Yeah, it's the carbon monoxide, the toxicity, and fires burn a lot more toxic now than they used to because of all the synthetic products that we use, and that high heat. And in a room that's on fire very, very quickly, at my waist level, it gets to about 400 degrees. And if you breathe in superheated air at like 150 degrees, your lungs will singe and shut down and you will die. That's why they always tell you, stay low where the air is cooler and where the air is good. Now, don't do that like military crawl where you have your nose right against the floor, which some people think, because there are some toxic gases that hug at the floor too. That's why we tell people crawl like a baby if you have to crawl out of a room that's filling up with smoke.
So the smoke, besides the carbon monoxide, can also have heat.
Exactly.
And so it's as if you're being burned. You can be burned by the smoke.
Oh,
the intensity
absolutely.
of the smoke.
Absolutely. I always tell people, keep in mind water boils at 212 degrees, and very quickly in a room that's on fire gets, at my waist level, gets twice as hot as that. So that's why, you want to have the working smoke detectors on every level of your home, because the thing that is going to save people, well, first of all, a lot of people don't realize 75% of all the people that die in a fire, 75% is just from the smoke, okay? And, the working smoke detectors and the escape plans are what's going to save us. Most people die in their homes. Most people die at night. So every level of your home, you should have a working smoke detector.
And where do you put the smoke detector?
Well, you would put it, you don't want to put it like around where there would be a draft or anything, you want to make sure that it's like at a high point, because remember the smoke fills up at the high point first. We tell people every level of the home, outside the sleeping areas, in the bedrooms as well. But you know what? You can always exceed that too. We tell you the minimum.
The Cleveland ordinance requires that it be on every level and then outside the sleeping.
The sleeping areas, right. And now we have been telling people in the bedrooms as well, and to please sleep with your doors closed, because with so many of the fires starting in the living areas of the home and that smoke generating through, what happens is the people go into a deeper sleep and perish. Whereas if you can keep your doors closed and you've got those working smoke detectors, you get a really early warning. And if it's early enough, you can get out your main exit, of course, by feeling the door. And we can go through a case scenario of that later if you want. Or it gives you time to at least get out your second exit as well. So,
And so there needs to be a plan, a family plan, if there is a fire.
Absolutely.
How do you get out, and then where you meet outside.
Exactly. A meeting place is so imperative, because it has happened time and time again where people get out, you don't know where Junior is, or you don't know where somebody is, and the mom and dad, they think, you know what, I know I shouldn't go back in, but they inevitably go in because that's their baby, and oftentimes they don't come out.
What do people need to know about smoke detectors?
Okay. The two things that are really going to keep people safe in their homes: working smoke detectors and escape plans. Smoke detectors, okay. You want to have one on every level of your home. You want to have them outside the sleeping areas. You want to sleep with your doors closed, and you want them in the bedrooms as well. We are seeing an increase in bedroom fires, both from candles, people smoking, incense, things like that, and overloaded circuits. So
Computers and that type of thing that people would have.
and you have possible sources of ignition in the bedroom also, but do sleep with the doors closed, because we talked about how serious it is when smoke generates through the building if it started elsewhere in the house. So basically, you want to check your smoke detectors every month. Okay? You want to change the batteries twice a year. We tell people, like, when you change your clocks, change your batteries. Some people will say, well, mine are hardwired. I don't have to do anything. Well, yeah, they still have battery backup. At least the newer ones do. The real archaic ones didn't, but the newer ones do. You still want to change the batteries for the battery backup.
But the hardwired smoke detector is, of course, better than the regular just battery
You know
ones.
what? As long as you're keeping those batteries, fresh in there, they're just really as good. They all do the job.
Okay.
Basically, just make sure for the battery backup that you do put those batteries in. And smoke detectors should be changed like every 10 years, really, the actual detector.
And in fact,
Vacuum them now and then a
Right.
little bit.
and in fact, if you can't afford smoke detectors, the Cleveland Fire Department has a program that they supply smoke detectors.
As many fire departments do. It's excellent, yeah. Okay.
So what are some of the people, most of the fires occur when people are sleeping?
Yeah, most of the fatality fires, it's in the middle of the night, people are sleeping, they're in their homes, and that's why you want to have that early warning.
And of course, if the smoke gets into their room, that's why you have to keep your bedroom door closed
wanna
so
keep
that
your door
smoke doesn't
closed.
get into your room. But if it does get in, then it even lulls you more into a deeper sleep.
Absolutely, absolutely. And not just that, but the temperature as well. You could have a temperature out in the hallway 300 some degrees, and if you had your door closed, it's still in the 70s in your room. So it gives you time to do the other things
Okay.
you have to do.
So what do people need to know if it's the middle of the night they smell smoke or they hear their smoke detector?
Okay, basically say you're sleeping and the doors would be closed, of course. All right, you're sleeping. When you hear that smoke detector go off, you still want to stay low, okay? You don't want to just raise up in bed right away. Stay low, crawl over to the door and feel the door sliding your hand up because, of course, the heat's up. You're going to feel it. If that door is feeling warm, of course, you leave the door closed and go out your second exit. If the door is cool, okay, then open the door slowly and look out because it's possible that that smoke could just rush right in. So you open it slowly, kind of bracing yourself against it, and then close it up again if that happens. If it looks all clear, a lot of times you can, because you've had that real early warning, a lot of times you can get out your main exit, which is good. But as I mentioned, if that door's hot, and sometimes people are excited and they're not really sure if it's actually really hot. A lot of times if you touch the handle, this conducts the heat better than the wood does. And so, that gives you a better idea also.
You're a parent and you awaken, you do that, and what do you do about your children's rooms?
Okay, what we tell people is to have a plan in place that somebody is responsible for those kids, and whatever they work out, a lot of times, somebody is just responsible for getting the really young ones out. Kids that are old enough to learn this, it's imperative that they learn it. They, too, can learn how to use the escape ladders, obviously not the little toddlers. But when you teach your children how to use the escape ladder, and I'll show that to you, you want to teach them how to attach it properly in the windowsill, drop it down the side of the house, and then go outside the normal way for practice and go up and down a couple rungs just to get the feel for it, because it is a different feel.
So many times children go to hide with a fire. They find children in a closet.
Right.
What do you suggest you do with your
Strictly
children?
education. Strictly education. A lot of fire departments will have go out to the schools and show what they look like out in turnout gear. You can always touch base with your fire department and say, I want my child to have this education. They're happy to have people stop in and see the department. I'm sure the firefighters would love to show what the turnout gear looks like, so they won't have a fear of that. Absolutely.
Well, let's see how this ladder works.
Okay. What you want to do, okay, this is the type of ladder where you just drop it down the side. This will attach, so this will be against the outside of the wall. This will attach in the windowsill. So you can actually, you're placing it out that way. Then you drop this ladder down the side of the house. You can get these for second floor exiting and third floor exiting, all right? You can get them online, superstores, hardware stores, catalogs, a lot of places. When you go outside, as I mentioned, when you teach the child how to attach this, go outside the normal way for practice and go up and down those rungs a few times.
Mitzi, this may be a very basic skill, but are there ways that you need to exit a window, particularly in the case of a fire?
Yes.
There are some do's and don'ts?
Correct. When you've attached that, and I do encourage people to practice, when you've attached it and you've dropped it down the side of the house, some people want to grab onto the handles and just go out this way.
Oh.
It's very awkward. It's very awkward because it's hard to turn around. What I tell people is hold on and pretend like you're going out almost as if you're getting on a horse. I know that sounds, if you watch the old westerns, so you're swinging your leg out and then you get the other leg out. So always make sure that your toes are against the wall of the house. And then travel on down the ladder, rung by rung. And it's amazing, some of the kids, when we have them practice, they'll hold on to the rung and they'll be letting their feet drop down. I say, no, hon, you have to have your hands go down the rungs as well. Some people will grab on also on the types that have chains to the chain. You can do that. I think it's a little rough. I myself just have them grab onto the rungs.
What should they not do?
Basically, what you don't want to do, you don't want to just get out this way like so many people do, because they'll have the handles here.
They're basically going head first then out the
Yeah,
window.
and then it's awkward to turn around, whereas if you just do it, hold on, one fell swoop, get your leg out and over, almost as if you're going to be straddling that windowsill, but then swing your leg around. Just the biggest thing to remember is swing your leg around and keep your toes against the siding of the house.
Mitzi, what are some of the other issues that you deal with the state fire prevention and the office of the state fire marshal as far as hazards around the home?
Okay. One of the things I want to touch base on, flammable liquids. First of all,
What are flammable liquids?
well, gasoline being paramount, kerosene, a lot of the propellants that are in cans of things, aerosol cans.
Mhm.
The product itself may be flammable. It may not be, but the propellant usually is. Acetone, things that women take nail polish remover off. I mean, there are many things. Just the important thing is always read warnings on any product you're using. If it has a flammability, if it's a flammable liquid, always use it in accordance with how it's meant to be used in a very, very well ventilated area or outside, away from a possible source of ignition. We have a lot of people do these hobbies down in the basement with a flammable liquid. The vapors are usually, with most flammable liquids, heavier than air, but they spread out. And you could be 10 or 12 feet away from your pilot light over there in the furnace, and all of a sudden, flammable liquids have what's called a very wide flammable range. You get enough vapors in the air, and boom, you have a flash fire. Very serious.
So your furnace, your hot water tank, with all that have pilot lights, sometimes
Yeah.
people may be doing things in their kitchen with a pilot light in the kitchen.
Absolutely, absolutely. Always read the warnings if it's flammable.
So the vapors are
Yes,
extremely
and what can
flammable.
happen, you can be doing something dangerous for years and always be lucky, because you can be what's called, the vapors are too lean, you're under the lower explosive limit, but that one day you just might use enough. Like an example was a woman who was using hairspray. 20 years she smoked while she used hairspray, never had a problem. And then one time those vapors crossed what's called into the flammable range, and she had bad burns on her head and her shoulders. So you have to be very, very careful of that. Another thing, if you smell gas in your home, and you're thinking, oh, I've got to go check this out, natural gas is methane primarily, and it has no odor. That odor they put in is mercaptan. It's to warn you, get out of the house, go call the gas company or the fire department from an outside source, because if you have enough of that in your home contained, now that's actually lighter than air, so it goes up, but it's contained in the house. If you have enough of that, if you even pick up the phone or turn on a light switch or something like that, and that's in that enriched environment, boom.
That spark
You
could
bet.
blow up the house.
bet.
We have had a few homes in Cleveland blow up that way, and I know recently around the state there have been homes that have blown
Absolutely.
up through accumulation of natural gas, and someone
now-
flipped a switch or...
You don't have in your area too many people that have the LP gas, the propane tanks outside?
No,
Okay.
but they have the LP gas, the propane gas with grills.
Yes.
That's what they use.
You just always want to be careful. That's a compressed gas cylinder. With grills, it's good you mentioned that. Anytime you're grilling, don't do it inside or even in the garage with the doors up. That thing should be at least 15 feet from any burnable structure, from your home, 15 feet.
Well, in fact, there's a new ordinance in Cleveland that you cannot have a grill on a porch. It has to be 15 feet
Right.
away from a flammable area, which is a city ordinance. Although I haven't seen one case come in court, I do see oft times barbecue grills on porches,
Yeah.
and some of them engulfed in flames.
Right, at least 15 feet. Another thing, since the 4th of July will be coming before we know, fireworks, all these parents feel very safe letting their kids play with sparklers. There are a lot of injuries from sparklers. And, that is a combustible metal fire. Those are bits of combustible metal. A sparkler gets to 1,800 degrees. That's hotter than a room in flashover. And these kids are zipping them around, and it's
Right.
like, it's scary. A lot of injuries from that. Last thing I'll touch base on, just because we're in the home, please always remember that any source of heat, space heater or anything, needs space. You have 3 ways that heat conducts: conduction, convection, radiation. That radiant heat, people will have something that generates heat, and they'll think, oh, it's far enough away from the bedding or whatever. At least minimally keep 3 feet from any space heater, from anything that will burn. And it should be on a surface that is non-combustible as well.
Anything else that we need to cover?
We've
We've covered so
a
much
lot.
in such a short
Electric
period of time.
blankets, huge problem incidentally. Don't tuck the electric blankets in, don't put a lot of things on top of them, don't leave them on. If you're going to have to use an electric blanket, use it to warm up the bed first and then turn it off and get in, because there are problems with electric and heating pads too, you know.
Well, we want to thank Mitzi Hudak from the State Fire Marshal's Office, who gives educational talks on fire prevention throughout the state of Ohio. Particularly, Mitzi, you cover the northeast section
Yes,
of Ohio.
my counties are Medina, Summit, Cuyahoga, Geauga, Lake, and Ashtabula.
Well, that's a lot of work.
A lot of
It's
driving.
a lot of driving. But fire prevention is an important topic, given the number of fires and home fires, and unfortunately the number of fatalities that those fires have caused, not only the fires but the smoke that we found out today. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much.